Welcome to the Foundry by Forge College. All right, we're jumping straight into today's explainer. We're going to tackle fixing those completely cryptic ENS resolution failures. You know the ones, they pop up exactly when you think your smart contract integration is 100% finished, and they honestly just make you want to throw your keyboard right out the window. So picture this. In our last lesson, you crushed it. You implemented load distribution strategies beautifully, and your decentralized app is scaling perfectly. But then, suddenly, an ENS name completely fails to resolve. You type in a standard .eth address, and instead of getting a nice, smooth hex string back, you get, well, absolutely nothing. A total black hole. So who exactly is to blame here? Let's figure it out. Here is our detective's blueprint for today. First, the resolution mystery. Second, our suspects, registry versus resolver. Third, the diagnostic script. Fourth, common debugging culprits. And finally, number 5, fixing the front end. Let's get moving. Starting off with section 1, the resolution mystery, and exactly why things fail when we hit a brick wall.
Look, we've all been there, right? You've set up this gorgeous front-end flow to replace those ugly raw addresses with nice, clean, readable ENS names. And sometimes it works flawlessly. But other times, it just throws a totally cryptic error or leaves a giant blank space on your UI. So are we dealing with ghosts in the machine here or a zero-address black hole? To actually harden our flow, we've got to stop guessing and start diagnosing.
To fix this, we need to look at the underlying architecture. Let's head to section 2 and meet our primary suspects, the registry and the resolver.
Okay, so the Ethereum name service actually divides its labor into 2 totally distinct parts. Think of the registry as the master switchboard operator. It doesn't actually know your phone number, it just knows which answering machine to send your call to. And that answering machine, that's the resolver. The resolver is a custom smart contract that actually holds the exact data you want, which is the Ethereum address. If resolution breaks, it is almost always one of these 2 dropping the ball.
But hey, before we can interrogate these suspects, we have to speak their language. Enter the namehash. This is the standardized cryptographic coordinate that the Ethereum network uses to actually look up a human-readable name. Because believe it or not, smart contracts do not read alice.eth. They prefer their data a bit less readable, requiring a 32-byte cryptographic hash. If you don't compute that name hash correctly on your front end, the registry literally has no idea what you're asking for. All right, now we get to the fun part. Section 3, the diagnostic script. It's time to isolate this failure.
So in our debugging lab, we create this really handy little script called diagnose.js that walks through 4 very precise steps. Step 1, connect your JSON-RPC provider. Step 2, compute the name hash. Step 3, query the registry for the resolver. And step 4, call the resolver for the address. We use read-only calls here, which is great because it lets us safely poke the registry and interrogate the resolver without spending a single drop of gas or risking our state. Now pay attention to step 3, because this is crucial. When your script asks the registry for the resolver's address, and the registry hands back address 0, boom, you just found a missing resolver. This is an incredibly common root cause. It basically means the user registered the name, but they never actually bothered to set up the answering machine. So when you see this, you immediately know you need a fallback built into your UI. Let's check out section 4, common debugging culprits, and walk through the typical failure patterns our script is going to catch out in the wild. You can think of this as your ultimate engineer's cheat sheet. Symptom 1, you get an empty address. The cause is usually that no resolver was set. The quick fix, fall back to displaying the raw hex address. Symptom 2, the resolver call actually throws an error. This likely means you've got an application binary interface, or ABI mismatch. The fix here is to catch those errors gracefully or try using an alternative ABI. And symptom 3, a reverse lookup differs from the forward lookup. This means you have an inconsistency. Don't crash the app, just flag that identity for manual verification. So once we know what's broken in the back-end plumbing, how do we apply safety nets so the user's experience doesn't just completely shatter? Let's dive into section 5, fixing the front end. We fix this by dropping some really smart validation helper functions directly into our front-end code. We're talking about implementing things like an ensure resolver present check. We're wrapping our calls in try-catch blocks to handle any of those weird, non-standard resolver ABIs. Because instead of blindly assuming every single ENS name perfectly adheres to a standard interface, we're anticipating the messiness of Web3. We want to catch the mess before the user ever even sees an error. Which brings us to reverse resolution. Think of this kind of like caller ID, but for Web3. It's the process of translating a raw hex address back into a human-readable ENS name, so your UI looks super clean and friendly. But watch out, because there's a major trap here: mismatches. A user might own a name, but they might not have properly set the reverse records. And that brings us to a literal golden rule in Web3 development. Forward and reverse consistency is a UX signal. It is not a security oracle. As a strict security consideration, if the forward and reverse records disagree, you absolutely need to flag it. But never, ever silently substitute identity-critical decisions based solely on reverse records. Literally anyone can claim a reverse record pointing anywhere. You have to verify it both ways. Zooming out a bit, it begs the question, are your building blocks truly robust enough for actual decentralized identity? By debugging these resolution failures and hardening your code against registry zeros and ABI mismatches, you're doing way more than just fixing bugs. You're building a highly reliable foundation. And hey, if you're enjoying this level of technical rigor, Forge College learning tracks dive much deeper into these exact scenarios. In fact, fixing these bugs right now prepares you perfectly for our next learning module on the foundations of identity management. So what's the big takeaway here? Always test your ENS assumptions with read-only calls, definitely catch errors before they break your UI, and never trust a reverse record blindly. Master Web3 architecture and explore a ton more at Forge College. Seriously, head over to the site to learn more about this subject, explore some deeper Web3 tracks, and just keep building. Because ultimately, if our digital identities are built on a foundation of code, what happens to who we are when that code breaks? Ponder that, keep building securely, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.